if everybody just enjoys themselves, I guess I'll use this talit. Oh boy, the tochacha today. There's words that are in the Torah text which are not to be pronounced. Oh, why she didn't prepare?
She always chants the whole thing. So I don't even bother. I tried a couple
It's going to happen. That's okay. Yeah, quickly and softly. And I'm going to make at least 10 mistakes. Some of the grammatical forms are very difficult. But you're not going to notice because I'm going to go so fast. I know, probably not. But I want to be perfect. Yeah, well, there's a lot of good ones in there. There are diseases that only appear one time in the text. A lot of diseases, Jordan. Hello, Elliot. And there's one word. There are a couple words here. There are a couple words here that don't appear in the text, and I have to make sure Yishkavena. See, this is really weird. Batichorim. Why is hemorrhoids? Did you see all the disease? Boils, scars, inflammation, itching, constant itching, mosquito bite. Oh God, blind man groping in the dark. Of course, we know that. Yeah, well, it's a bad curse here. It's a bad thing. I can imagine how my relatives enjoyed reading this in the old country. They took it seriously. Oh my God, look at it. Our flocks are going to be blight and mildew. Of course. Boils, a lot of boils. Boils repeat a couple times. A lot of boils.
They got the Egyptians too with the boils.
That's right. It's a good.
The boils.
But we'll have delicious wine.
If we say Ladovin, we'll avoid the boils. Psalm 27. We didn't say it last time.
Oh, that's right. I forgot again 27. You should have said Rabbi.
It's not derech eretz to do that.
I know.
I would never do that.
But let's see, I like that because
All right, if you hear me go,
So
Ladovin.
we're doing fine with the minion.
Yeah.
And Shabbat this morning. I don't know.
At night.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to read real fast. Dan, Adele, Elaine, I just want to say Shabbat Shalom. Is that Dana in the back? Hi, Shabbat Shalom. Good. Okay, testing. Good. 1 minute.
What is Egyptian?
I went right to the page.
What is Egyptian inflammation?
Egyptian inflammation?
Yeah, it says here.
Well, it's opposed to Libyan inflammation.
Right, well, it says Egyptian inflammation, and it says hemorrhoids.
I'm going to test you on all this.
Egyptian inflammation with hemorrhoids. Now, you can get Egyptian inflammation, I guess, without hemorrhoids, but here it's with hemorrhoids.
With hemorrhoids.
And
It's a
boiled and
deluxe.
mashed.
It's a deluxe
It's the
Egyptian.
deluxe Egyptian.
Jordan, don't get me. Don't get me mishuga. You know, the word mishuga comes from this portion, which I'm going to challenge everybody to find it. Mishugaas, mishugaim. You know, there's all kinds of derivatives here. Mishugoyim, mishu. It's in this portion this week. Okay, I think we're ready to begin. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We have much to do. Relax, enjoy, open the Siddur, read the commentary, your own thoughts, and engage in being together. Page 147, Shochenad.
Shochenad marom v'kadosh shemo.
Shochenad marom v'kadosh shemo. B'fi Yisraim titalal, v'rei tzadikim titbarag, v'shon chazidim titromam, v'kerev kadoshim titkadash.
Says it.
It's not on.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound too loud.
Well, yeah, maybe you have to get it close.
V'chatuv ranenu tzadikim badonai, laisharim nava tehila, b'fi yesharim tit halal, uvdivrei tzadikim tit barach, uvelshon chasidim tit romam, uvekerev kedoshim tit kadash.
Umakalot rivavot,
Amcha beit
Amcha beit Yisrael, Berim
Yisrael.
yitbar shimcha malkeinu, shekein chovat kol tzorim lefanech, Adon Eloheinu v'levateinu v'moteinu
Lehodot, lehaleo, leshabeach, lefaer, leromeim, lehader, levarech, lealeh, ukales, al kol divrei, shirot v'tishbachot, David ben Yishai, Avdecha Meshichecha. Yishtabak Shimcha Liad Malkeinu.
El HaMelech HaGadol v'Akadosh v'Shamayim v'Haaretz, Sher Yisrael v'Zman Slamen.
Mirachot v'hodaot me'ata v'yad olam. Baruch atah Adonai, El Melech Gadol b'tishbachot, El hahodaot, Adon haniflaot, Habocher b'shirei zimra, Melech El chei ha'olamim.
Amen. Please rise. Hatzikadosh.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
Be'ama divra kirutei, v'amlich malchutei, b'chayei uvyomei chon, uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'gala uv'izman koriv, v'yimaru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach, le'olam amaya yitbarach.
יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה ברכו לעילם עם כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא ויאמרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Please be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim Mechalem Yoser Or V'Rechusha.
אדוני
עושה שלום ובריא
אלוהינו
את
מלך
הכל.
העולם יוצר אור ובורא חושך עושה שלום וברא את
Page
הכל.
150.
הכל יודוך והכל ישבחוך.
יוצר הכל האל הבוטח בכל יום דלתות שערי מזרח. אלוהי עולם ברחמך ורחמך עלינו ודונו זינו צו משכבנו וגנישנו משכבנו.
אפס בלתך גואלנו לימות המשיח ואין דומה לך מושיענו לתחיית המתים.
אלדון, page 150.
אלדון הכל המעשים ברוך ומבורך בפי כל נשמה גודלו וטובו מלא עולם דעת ותבונה סובבים אותו המתגאה על חיות הקודש ונדר בכבוד על המרכבה זכות ומישור לפני כיסו חסד ורחמים לפני כבודו טובים מאורות שברא אלוהינו יצרם בדעת בבינה ובהשכל כוח וגבורה נתן בהם להיות מושלים בקרב תבל מלאים זיו ופיקים נוגה נאה זיום בכל העולם שמחים בצאתם וששים בבואם עושים ביהם הרצון קונם פאר וכבוד נותנים לשמור צרה ורינה לזכר מלכותו קרא לשמש ויזרח אור רעה והקים צורת הבנה שבח נותנים לו כל צבא מרום תפארת וגדולה שרפים ויופנים וחיות הקודש אשר שבת מכל המעשים.
ביום השביעי היית ביום השביעי משבח
תתברך מושיענו על שבח מעשה ידיך ועל מאורי אור שעשית יפרוך הסלע. תתברך צורנו מלכנו וגואלנו ברי קדושים. תתברך צורנו מלכנו וגואלנו ברי קדושים.
נשתבח שמך למלכנו אשר משתיו כולם עומדים ברום עולם. כולם אהובים, כולם ברורים, כולם
וכולם פותחים את פיהם בקדושה ובטהרה, בשירה ובזמרה, ומברכים ומשבחים ומפארים, ומעריצים ומקדישים וממליכים את שם האל.
וכולם מקבלים עליהם אוכל שמיים
להק-
מזה.
להקדיש ליוצרם בנחת רוח, בשפה ורע ונימה קדושה, כולם כאחד עונים ואומרים ביראה, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו.
ויפנה וחית הקודש.
והאופנים וחיות הקודש, ברעש גדול מתנסים ליומת שרפים, ליומתם משבחים ואומרים,
ברוך כבוד
אדוני ממקומו. לאל
ברוך
תיתנו, למלך אל חי וקיים, זמירות יאמרו ותשבחות ישמיעו, כי הוא לבדו פועל גבורות. עושה חדשות במלחמות, זרע צדקות, מצמיח ישועות, בורא רפואות, נורא תהילות, אדון הנפלאות, המחדש בטובו בכל יום תמיד, מעשה וראשית כאמור, ליוצאי אורים גדולים, כי לעולם חסדו. אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך שמו.
יוצר המאורות.
Amen. Ahava Rabav Tanu at page 154.
אהבה רבה תנו, אדוני אלוהינו, חמלה גדולה ותורה, חמלת עלינו. אבינו מלכנו, בעבור אבותינו, שבטחו בך, שבטחו בך, אבינו מלכנו. ותלמדנו כחיים, כן זיכרוננו למדנו, אבינו האב הרחמן, המרחם רחם עלינו, ותן בליבנו להבין, להבינו השכיל לשמוע, ללמוד ולמד, לשמור ולעשות. ולקיים את כל דברי תלמוד תורתך באהבה, והאר עינינו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויחד לבבינו לאהבה וליראה שמך, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו, נגדילה ונשמחה, נגדילה ונשמחה בישועתך. והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ, ותוליכנו קוממיות לארצנו, כי אל פועל ישועות אתה, ובנו בחרת מכל עם ולשון, וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול, סלע באמת להודות לך, ולייחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בעמו ישראל, B'Yahava.
Amen. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'yahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha, u'v'chol me'otecha, v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzavecha, hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibartabam, b'shivtecha, b'beitecha, uvlechtecha, v'terech, uvshapecha, uvkumecha, ukshatam liot, al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot, b'eineinecha, uchtavtam, al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha. The Shabbat continues. Page 156, V'hayam Shemot Tishmo Mitzvotai. V'natasim mitzartzachem bitol. Yishamu lachem peniftem levavchem v'satem v'avatem Elohim achari v'shtachavitem lahem. Uchtavtam v'yisharach l'mal yibuimechem v'nidlechem ashalom. Vayomer Adonai Moshe lemor daber el bnei Yisrael v'yamarta alehem v'yasu lahem tzitzit al kanfei v'nehem l'dorotam v'natnu al tzitzit hakana betil techelet v'haya lachem l'tzitzit uritem al tom Uschatem et kol mitzvot Adonai Yasitem otam V'lo taturu Acharei levavchem V'yacharei enechem Asher atem zonim achareihem V'man tizkaru V'yasitem et kol mitzvotai V'yitem kedoshim ledoheichem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liod lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem.
Adonai Elohechem emet.
Stephen Achon v'kayam.
L'dor v'ador hu kayam u'shmo hu kayam v'chiso nachon u'malchuto ve'emunato liad kayamet.
Page 157.
Emet she'atahu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu Malkeinu melech avoteinu Goaleinu goel avoteinu Yotzerenu tzur Yeshuateinu Podenu umatzilenu me'alam shemecha Ein Elohim zulatecha Ezrat avoteinu atahu me'olam
Mishpatech v'ischav se'aretz Emet haTorah domer mechem rivivam Melech le'olam Mashiach miMitzrayim gatanu l'Elohim beit avadim v'ditanu V'yamsu pagat avadim hevat avadim hevarta Also shivchu ahuvim
Ram v'nisa gado v'nora Mashpil ge'im magli ha'shifolim Motzi asirim ofod anavim V'yozer dalim V'yonel yamo V'yet shavam helav Tehilo li'el elyon Baruch hu mavarach Moshe el Miriam uvnei Yisrael Nechanu shira Besimcha rabba V'yamru chulam O mi chamocha Va'eli Adonai, mi kamocha, nedar b'kodesh, norati lodo sefele, shira chadasha, shipru geulim, לשמחה ושפת הים, יחד כולם הודו והמליכו, ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ינדי די די Tur Yisrael, Kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, Uvdei Nemecha Yehuda be'Yisrael, Go Aleinu Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch Atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael.
We continue silently. We continue now together with the Amidah for Shachri Shabbat on page 159, through the Kedusha together on page 161, and then following the remainder of the Amidah will be davened silently through page 166.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei HaKol V'Zocher Chasdei Avot U'Mevi Goel Livnei B'neihem L'ma'an Shemo B'Yahava Melech Ozer Fokedu Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Ufoked Sarah Atah Gibor Li'olam Adonai Mechayei Meitim Atav Rav Lehoshia Morid Hatal Mechakel Chayim B'Chesed Mechayei Meitim B'Rachamim Rabim Somech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot Umidom Elach Melech Meimid Umechayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman atah lahachayot meitim Baruch atah Adonai Mechayei HaMeitim.
Page 161. L'nikadesh et shimcha ba'olam Yesh shem shemati shemoto b'shmei marom Kakatu v'yad nevi'eh v'razel zevi'amar
Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam Kashem shemakdishim oto b'shmei marom Kakatu v'yad nevi'echa v'karazel zevi'amar Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzavot, Melech ha'aretz kevodo.
Az b'korash gadol, Adivrik mashmin kol minasim l'matzorafim l'matzavrok yemeru.
Az beko rash gadol, adir v'chazak mashmim kol. Az beko rash gadol, adir v'chazak mashmim kol. Mitnasim liumat serafim, mitnasim liumat serafim, liumatam baruch yomeru. Baruch kevod Adonai mimakomo.
Mimkom chamakin de Sophia, v'nimloch alelech l'chananach. מצאתים לו בציון בקרוב בימים להם תשקול.
ממקומך מלכנו תופיע, ממקומך מלכנו תופיע, ותמלוך עלינו, ותמלוך עלינו, כי מחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון, בקרב בימינו לעולם ועד תשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, ולנצח נצחים. בעינינו תירנה, תירנה מלכותך, כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך, על ידי דוד משיח צדקך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד קולך. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד קולך. ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, קדושתך נקדיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לעולם לעולם ועד. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד קולך. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד קולך. כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה, וקדוש אתה. כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה, גדול וקדוש אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך שמו,
האל הקדוש.
אמן. ישמח משה במתנת חלקו, ביני ובין בני ישראל תהיהם כשתמצא. לא תתני לישראל מחנת את ביובל וזרי שבחרת. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו מלכנו. נודה לך נספר נפש.
Ya da 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 da, ya da da da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da da da. shalom, shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Oh, say shalom, shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Hu yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imaru amen. Ve'imaru amen.
Kaddish Shalem. Page 167. One more. Kaddish Shalem.
Sorry, I was looking
Okay.
for Stan.
No,
Sorry.
you're not done.
Yitgadal v'yikadash shmei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yamad divra kibrutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. V'galav izman kori v'imaru.
Amen.
Amen.
Yehi
Shmei Rabbah mevorach. Le'olam ome'omaya yitbarach.
Yitbarach.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalau shemei d'kudesh abrichu le'elamim kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran v'yama v'imaru. Amen.
Amen.
Titkabal tzalot tahon v'utahon d'chol Yisrael kodam avohon d'vishmaya v'imaru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imaru. Amen. Oh, say shalom bimramav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, b'imru amen.
Yashakol. Now you're done, Deborah. Yashakol. Well done. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Boker Tov. This is the penultimate Shabbat of the year. We only have 2 more to go. And we are together. Our theme today is going to be on, first we're going to read this. We're reading how terrible everything could be. But we're going to do the opposite and talk about what constitutes happiness in a Jewish context. So with that note, I have a lot to say. Let's continue now on page 168, the Seder Hosat HaTorah.
Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai v'ein kamasecha malchutcha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha b'chol dor v'dor Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai imloch leolam va'ed Adonai oz le'amo yitain Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom av harachamim heitiv avitzoncha et Zion tivnecha mod Yerushalayim Ki b'cha levad batachnu melech el ram v'nisa adon olamim.
Book is open. Please rise.
Vayehi ben Aaron vayomer Moshe Kuma Adonai V'yafutzu oyevecha v'yanusu misanecha mipanecha ki mitzion tetzei Torah ki mitzion tetzei Torah Odavar Adonai Mirushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah Le'amo Yisrael Bikdushato.
Our God and God of all of our ancestors, we stand again before the Aron HaKodesh, the Ark of your covenant, acknowledging your sovereignty in our lives and seeking further knowledge of your word. Help us, O God, to behold again the wonders of your Torah. Endow us with wisdom so that we may understand its precepts. Inspire us with loyalty so that we may live by its teachings. Shomer Yisrael, O Keeper of Israel, we are grateful for your many bounties, for the protecting care with which your love shelters and guides us, and for the knowledge that wherever we are in your presence. May the teachings of your Torah enrich our lives. May they challenge us to give evidence of our devotion. May our words and deeds hallow your name, and thus make us worthy of your blessings. Amen.
Amen. Be'anarachetz V'lishmei Kadisha Yakira Ana Emar Tushbechan Be'anarachetz V'lishmei Kadisha Yakira Ana Emar Tushbechan Yehi Ravakadamach V'tiftach libi b'yoraita V'tashlim mishalin delibi V'liba decholamach Yisrael L'tav l'chayim v'lishlam. Amen. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlul Adonai iti unerom ima Shemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai Hagadola V'Hagavura V'Hatiferet V'Hanetzach V'Hahod Kicho Bashamayim Uvaretz Kicho Bashamayim Uvaretz Lecha Adonai Hamamlacha v'hamitnaseh lechol rosh. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lahadom raglav kadoshu. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lahar kadsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Ye Yisrael, v'yoraita chadu. Ye Yisrael, v'yoraita chadu. Torah, Torah, Hallelujah. Torah, Torah, Hallelujah.
All right, we have a lot to do here. All right, everybody. Is this on again? I hope. Yeah, should be on. Shabbat Shalom, everybody take your seats. Let's prepare for the Torah reading, because it's not an easy one. Let me give you those page numbers here first. We are starting on page 1146, and we're reading from the 11th verse there. Let me tell you what's going on. We're at Mount Eval in the Judea, the Samaria area, Shomron, and the blessings and the curses of the people before they cross into the land of Israel are brought here. And we have a very, very long Torah reading, which I'm going to read. I'm going to tell you already, I'm going so fast you won't even be able to tell if I make a mistake. I'll make plenty of them. It's got every disease from Egypt in the world, so it's very hard to memorize. And there are two places where there are actually substitute words have to be put in. So it's a very unusual reading, this cursing. And I, it's a very difficult thing to read. Curses. That's why I want to talk about happiness. But just think of this. What is the place of warnings? Tochachot means warnings, curses, warnings, really. You imagine in 1933, if God could have spoken from heaven and lowered the boon on humanity about what was coming. We would say, Ki Tavo should be read. Sometimes the world needs to hear this. Sometimes we need to be shaken up about the threats to us. Now we have a beautiful tradition that says that when we read the negative parts of the portion here, we do so quickly and quietly because we want to mute the difficult parts of the Torah. But still, sometimes we need to hear the consequences of humanity's falling far from God. And so there's a place for this. There's a place for it. Sometimes we need some prophets to tell us what is really going on before it's too late. Before it's too late. That's the way I read this text. A warning to the people. Don't take things for granted. Don't assume that you're going to be free forever. Terrible things can befall you if society falls apart. And that's why we read this. And perhaps very appropriately before the coming of the new year. Now, one of the curses, there are many curses here, but one of the curses is that you will be cursed because you did not take the opportunity to be joyous. You failed in your happiness. And I'm going to be talking about the inscription of our synagogue. Yivdu et Adonai b'simcha. You shall serve God with joy, which is from the Psalms and a direct counter to the curse, which is you haven't been joyful. So I'm going to share with you the ways in which Judaism defines the word happiness. What constitutes happiness? Just to give you a little trigger, in the Hebrew there's no word for fun. There's no word. So you go on a roller coaster, you don't express it in Hebrew. It doesn't exist. There's simcha, there's osher, ashrei osher vetecha, there's a certain connotation of happiness, but we don't go on roller coasters and say, well, that's a Jewish way of having fun. Doesn't exist. Isn't that interesting? Okay, let's read the curses and then we'll get to happiness. That makes a lot of sense. All right, let's go.
V'yasor v'yagid
V'yitein v'yoshia l'chol ha'chosim bo v'nomar.
Amen.
Amen. Hakol hoved godel Eloheinu u'tadiv kavod laTorah. Kohen karav ya'amod. Eliyahu ben Yechezkel HaKohen ve'ishto Dina Leah bat Leib Le'aliyad HaRishon Baruch Shnatan Torah Li'amo Yisrael B'Kedushato V'atem Hadvekim Badana Elohechem Chayim Kolchem Hayom.
The Kohen Aliyah is found on page 1146, Pasuk 11.
Baruch Hu es Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim. V'nasan Lanu Es Toraso. Baruch Atah Adonai Nosein HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayetzav Moshe Ram Bayom Hahu Lemor Ele Yamdu Levarech et Ham Al Har Gerizim Ba'ovrachem et HaYarden Shimon v'Levi v'Yehuda v'Yisachar v'Yosef u'Vinyamin ve'ele yamdu al hakelala behar Eval Reuven Gad v'Asher u'Zivulun Dan v'Naftali ve'anu halvim ve'amru El kol ish Yisrael koram aror ha'ish asher yaseh fesel u'masecha tovat Adonai maseh yedei charash v'sam v'sater o v'ay Ve'anav koham Vayomru amen Ve'amar koham Ve'amru amen Aror matle'aviv ve'imo Ve'amar koham amen Aror masigevu Ehu v'amar kol ha'am amen aror mashke iver b'darech v'amar kol ha'am amen aror ma'ter mishpat ger yatom v'almana v'amar kol ha'am amen aror shochev Im esher aviv, ki gila kenaf aviv, v'amar kol ha'am, amen. Aror shochev im kol shochev im kol behema, v'amar kol ha'am, amen. Aror shochev im achoto, Bat aviv, o bat imo, ve'amar kol ha'am, amen. Aror shochev im chaton tanto, ve'amar kol ha'am, amen. Aror makerehu basater, ve'amar kol ha'am, amen. Aror lokeach shochad lehakot nefesh dam naki v'amar kol ha'am amen. Aror asher lo yakim et divrei haTorah hazot lasot otam ואמר כל העם, אמן. והיה אם שמוע תשמע בקול אדוני אלוהיך לשמור לעשות את כל מצוותיו אשר אנוכי מצווך היום ונתן לך אדוני אלוהיך העליון על כל גויי הארץ ובאו עליך כל הברכות האלה והשיגוך כי תשמע בקול אדוני אלוהיך ברוך אתה בעיר
וברוך אתה בשדה.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher nasan lanu teras emes v'chayei olam nata b'sochenu Baruch atah Adonai nosein haTorah.
Amen. Thank you, John. Shakol, Elliot, Dana.
The Sheni Aliyah is found on page 1149, Pasuk 4.
Enjoy the blessings while they last here. Blessing, Baruch.
Baruch Adonai Amborach.
Baruch Adonai Morach Olam Vahed.
Baruch Adonai Borach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'chabanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen. Baruch pri vitnecha ufri admacha ufri vehemtecha shagar alafecha v'yashtarot zonecha Baruch tanacha u'mishartecha Baruch atah b'volecha u'baruch atah b'tzeitecha.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chai olam nata b'tocheinu. Baruch Atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen.
Here's a pack.
Achaya bat Aharon v'Henya Leah Ushmaryahu David ben Eliyahu Lalei Shlishit.
The Shlishi Aliyah is found on page 1149, Pasuk 7.
Elliot.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach
Baruch Adonai Morach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Vaed Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Yitain Adonai et oivecha akamim alecha igafim lefanecha b'derech echad yetzu elecha ubshiva derachim yanusu lefanecha yitzav Adonai itecha et habracha ba'asamecha uvechol mishlach yadecha uveirachecha ba'aretz asher Adonai Elohecha notein lach. Yikimcha Adonai lo la'am kadosh kasher nishbalach ki tishmor et mitzvot Adonai Elohecha v'halakta b'drachav v'ra'u kol amei ha'aretz ki Shem Adonai nikra lecha v'yaru mimecha v'hotircha Adonai l'tova b'fri vitnecha u'b'fri v'hemtecha u'b'fri amatecha al hadama asher nishba Adonai le'avatecha lateit lach.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet
Amen. Sue Prohovsky and her son David Prohovsky are here in memory of Sue's mother, Helen Shapiro, Zichronah Livracha, and also David, your father, Sue's husband, a blessed memory, Earl Prohovsky. You've honored him. Yasher koach. Wonderful memories.
Yamod. Binyamin ben Lezer. Revi'i.
The Revi'i Aliyah can be found on page 1150, Pasuk 12.
Baruch et Adonai Baruch.
Baruch
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher bocha banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten atah.
Amen.
Amen. Yiftach Adonai lecha et utzarato v'et hashamayim לתת מתורתך ביתו ולברך את כל מעשה ידיך ולפית גויים רבים ואתה לא תלווה ונתנך אדוני לראש ולא לזנב והיית רק למעלה ולא תהיה למטה, כי תשמע אל מצוות אדוני אלוהיך, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום, לשמור ולעשות, ולא תסור מכל הדברים, אשר אנוכי מצווה אתכם היום, ימין ושמאל ללכת אחרי אלוהים אחרים לעובדם.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam notah b'sochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Before there was Freud, there's the curses in Kitavo. And I want you to know here when we go through this, and by the way, I'm going to read it real fast and very quietly, so you have to listen attentively. But there are two places in which the Torah has a different word than what is supposed to be read. So that's also interesting. But I want you to see the word we use all the time. Mishuga, he's crazy. Mishuga, Mishugoyim, the crazy Gentiles we use. It's in this portion. Going stir crazy. It's a mental illness which the Torah speaks of. So when you're reading that, try to find that. Okay, now we're ready. Where's the fifth aliyah?
Yamod. Chamishi.
Am I it?
You're reading.
Reuben, okay. Okay. It's a long text here. Okay, let's see.
Yamod. Yaakov Aaron Ben Meir. Aviva. Ben Yehuda. Chamishi.
The Chamishi reading is found on page 1150, Pasuk 15.
Now you got lost track. Here you go. Here, take your talit. Right. Thank you.
Baruch et Adonai Baruch.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim
ונתן לנו את תורתו, ברוך אתה אדוני, נותן התורה.
אמן. ויהי תשמע מקול אדוני אלוהיך משמע לעשות את כל מצוותיו וקראתך ושלוחי מצווך היום ובא עליך כל הקללות האלה והשיגוך ארועתה בעיר וארועתה בשדה וראו פתנך משתך וראו פרי בטנך פרי אדמתך שקר לפך ורצונך ארועתה בבואך וארועתה בצאתך ישלח אדוני בך את המראה את המהומה ואת המגערת מכל משלח ידיך אשר תעשה האיש עמדך ויד עבדך מהר מפני רמי על עליך אשר עזבתני ידבק אדוני בך את עבור עד כלותו אותך מעל אדמה אשר אתה בשמה לרשתה יקך אדוני בשחפת ובקדח ובדלקת בך רחור ובחרב בשיטפון בירקון ורוצך עד עובדך והיו שמך את רעי ראשך נחושת הארץ אשר תותיך ברזל ייתן אדוני מטר ארצך אבק ויעפר מן השמיים עליך ישמדך יתנך אדוני נגב לבני אויביך בדרך אחד תצא אלה בשבעה דרכים תנוס לבדך וייתן לה זהבה לכל ממלכות הארץ ויתה נבלתך למלך לכל עוף השמיים ולבהמת הארץ ואין מכריע יקך אדוני בשכין מצרים ובתרוחים ובגרב בחרס אשר לא תוכל להירפא יקך אדוני בשיגדל ביברון בתהום לבב והייתם ממשף צהריים כאשר ימשש העבר והאפלה לא תצליח לרחך והיית חשוק וכסוף כל ימים ואין מושיע אישה תרס ואיש אחר ישכבנה בית לפני ולא תשב בו כרם דיצה ולא תאכל לנו שעות כל התבוח לעיניך ולא תאכל ממנו החומרך גזום לפניך לא ישוב לך צונך נתונו לאויביך ויהיה לך מושיע בניך ונותיך נתונים לעם אחר עיניך ראו וקולות אליהם כל היום ויהיה לאל ידך פרי אדמתך וכל יגיעך יאכל עד אשר לא ידעת והיית רק עשוק ורצוץ כל הימים והייתי משוגע ממראה לך אשר תראה יקך אדוני בשכין רע על הברכיים ועל השוקיים אשר לא תוכל להירפא מכף רגלך ויד קודקתך יבלך אדוני אותך ואת מלכך אשר תקים עליך אל גוי אשר לא ידעת אתה יאהבותך ויאהבת שם אלוהים אחרים עץ ואבן הייתי לשמה לשום לשנינה בכל הימים אשר ינהגך אדוני שמעת זרע רב תוציא השדה למעט תאסוף כי יחסילנו הרבה הכרמים תיטה ויאהבתה ויין לא תשתה ולא תתיגורק תאכלנו הטלה זיתים יהיו לך בכל גבולך ושמן לא תסוך כי שאל זיתך בני בבנות תליד ולא יהיה לך כי ילכו בשבי כל עץ על פרי אדמתך ירש הצצל צל הגר אשר בקרבך יעלה עליך מלמעלה ואתה תראה מטה הוא יבלה ואתה ילבך ואתה לא תלונו הוא יהיה לראש ואתה תהיה לזנב ובא עליך כל הקללות האלה ורודפך השיגוך עד ישמעך כי לא שמעת בקול אדוני אלוהיך לשמור מצוות וחוקותיו אשר ציווך והיו בך לאות למופת צרך עד עולם תחת אשר לא עבדת את אדוני אלוהיך בשמחה ובטוב לבב מרוב כל ועבדת את אויביך שישלחנו את אדוני בך ברב ובשמח ובעירם בחסר יעקב נתן ברזל עברך עד ישמידו אותך יישא אדוני עליו כל מרחוב מקצה הארץ כאשר ידעה הנשר גוי אשר לא תשמע לשונו גוי עז פנים אשר לא יישא פנים לזקן ונער לא יכן ואכל פרי בהמתך פרי אדמתך עד ישמידך אשר לא ישאיר לך דגן ודרוש וישר ישכר אלפך וישור רצונך עד העבידו אותך עצר לך בכל ישריך עד רדת חמותיך הגבוהות וצורות אשר אתה בטח בהם בכל ארצך, והיצר לך בכל שעריך בכל ארצך, אשר נתן אדוני אלוהיך לך, והלכת פרי ביתך, בשר בניך ובנותיך, אשר נתן לך אדוני אלוהיך במצור המסוק, אשר הציק לך אויביך, האיש הרע בך והעונג מאוד, והעונג מאוד, תראינו באחד ואשת חיקו, ויתר בניו אשר יוציר מתת לאחד מהם, מבשר בניו אשר ילך מבלי, השאיר לו כל במסור מצוק, אשר יציק לך אויביך בכל שעריך, הרכה בינה והנהגה, אשר לא נעשתה כף רגלה יצר על הארץ, מעידה נגמרה מתרה אינה באיש, היכה בינה ביתה בשלי, שלייתם, היוצא מבין רגליך ובניך אשר תלד, כי תכלם בחסר, כל בספר מצור המצוק אשר יצק לך, אויביך בשעריך, אם לא תשמור לעשות את כל דברי התורה הזאת, הכתובים בספר הזה, ליראה את השם הנכבד, ונורא הזה אדוני אלוהיך, יפלא אדוני מכותך, ואת כל מוטות זרעך, מכות גדולות ונאמנות וחולים רעים, ועמים השיב לך את כל מדווה מצרים, אשר יגרת מפניהם ודווקא בך, גם כל חולי וגם הקדש אשר כתוב בספר התורה הזאת, ילמד לך על איש מדך ושמרתם בפתי מבט תחת אשר ייתם כל כוכבי השמיים לרוב, כי לא שמעת בקול אדוני אלוהיך וידך אשר שש אדוני לכם להיטיב אתכם, להרבות אתכם, כן יעשיס אדוני לכם להעבידכם, להשמיד אתכם, נעשותם מיד אדמה אשר אתה בשמה לרשתה, והפיצך אדוני בכל העמים, בקצה הארץ, ואהבת השם אלוהים אחרים אשר שם אלוהים אחרים אשר שם לידעת אתה ואבותיך עץ ואבן וגויים, ההם לא תרגיע ולא יהיה מנוח לכף רגליך, ונתן לך השם לב רגש וכליון עיניים ודאבו נפש, והיו לך תלויים לך מנגד ופחת הלילה ויומם, ולא תאמין בחייך בכל בוקר, ותאמר מיתן ערב בערב, תאמר מיתן בוקר מפחד לבבך, אשר ציווך עד מראה עיניך אשר תראה, והשיבך אדוני מצרים בעוניות בדרך אשר אמרתי לך, לא תציבו לרעתה, והתמכרתם שם לאויביך לעבדים ולשפחות ואין קונם. אלה דברי הברית אשר ציווה אדוני משה לכרת את בני ישראל בארץ מואב, מלבד הברית אשר כרתתם בחורב. Oh, I'm reading again, that's right.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Shishi. Tamod. Belabat. Chana David. B'chai Esther. Tevye Gershon. Ben Aharon. Avi. Rivka. Shishi.
The Shishi Aliyah is found on page 1158, Pasuk 1.
Breathing a sigh of relief. Right at the top. Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torah. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayikra Moshe et kol Yisrael, vayomer alehem atem ritem, et kol asher aseh Adonai le'nechem, בארץ מצרים לפרעה ולעבדיו ולכל ארצו, המסות הגדולות אשר ראו עיניך, אותות והמופתים הגדולים, ההם ולא נתן אדוני לכם, lev ladad ve'im lerot, ve'oznaim lishmod ad yom hazeh. Ve'olech etchem 40 shana bamidbar, lo balu sal milmotechem, me'alechem ve'anacha, lo balta me'al raglechem. Lechem lo achaltem ve'yayin ve'shechar, lo shetitim, leman tedu, ki ani Adonai Elohechem. That was easy. Yes. I'm getting good practice. Amen. Ashakah. I'm taking a breather.
Ta'amon. Hadasabat. Tzvi. Ve'achel. Shvi'i.
The Shvi'i reading is found on page 1159, Pasuk 6.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam V'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam V'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. ותבואו אל המקום הזה, ויצא סיחון מלך חשבון, ויהוג מלך הבשן לקראתנו למלחמה ונקם, וניקח את ארצם, וניתנה לנחלה לראובני ולגדי ולחצי שבט המנשי, ושמעתם את דברי הברית הזאת ועשיתם אותם, למען תשכילו את כל
אשר תעשו.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, בחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Let's cover the Torah. Please rise for our Misha Berach, for those who are ill, the Cholim. Misha Berach, Avotenu Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarivka, Rechav Aleim. ויברך ירפא את כל החולים. תביא גרשום בן אהרון אביו רבקה, צבי יצחק בן שימה וחיה, דוד יוסף בן חנבשה, יצחק בת שולמית, רבקה שפרה בת שרה רזל, לאה בת שרה, מרי ברטן, יהודית בת רחל, זכרי זימרמן, מרים בת נחה, מתיס חיים, יצחק בן נוח, ברל חיים בן אליעזר, Eliezer ben Avraham Ubraindla, Naomi bat Avraham Vesara, Yisrael, Devorah bat Ephraim Fishel, Shlomo Meir ben Moshe Frida Rivka, Ariel ben Yaakov Verisha Rachel, Penina bat Eliyahu Verivka, Chana bat Yeshaya Vegittel, and Yitzchak ben Asher Lemel. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yemalei Rachim Lehem, L'Haksi Kam L'Rapatam V'Yishlach Lahem Meira, Rifua Shlema Min HaShamayim, L'Rifua T'Nefesh, U'Rifua T'Guf, B'tok Sha'ar Cholim, V'Chazek Yidei HaOskim B'Tzorchehem, Shabbat Hi Mizo Kuravo Kuravo Lavo, Hashtabis Man Kariv and Omar, Amen. May God who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bring blessing and healing to all those we have mentioned in our prayers and those in our hearts today. May the Holy One mercy restore them to health and vigor, granting them spiritual and physical well-being, together with all who are ill. May God grant strength to those who tend to them. This is Shabbat, a time to refrain from healing, to remember blessings, yet we hope and pray that healing is soon at hand. And let us say, Amen.
Mikor habracha le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mikor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Yitkadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divra kirte v'yamlik malchutei, v'chayecho mecho u'chayedecho beit Yisrael, Bagala, Uvizman Kari, V'yimeru, Amen. Yehesh me Rabba mevarach, le'olam u'me'amaya, Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yipa'ar, v'yitramam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei d'kudasha, richu, le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'chemata, damiran v'alma, v'yimeru, Amen.
Please be seated.
Ta'amod devar bat Pinchas v'Yudit maftir.
The Maftir reading is found again on page 1159, Pasuk 6.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Barach Elam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Hamim, V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. ותבואו אל המקום הזה, ויצא סיחון מלך חשבון, ועוד מלך הבאשן לקראתנו למלחמה ונקם, וניקח את ארצם, וניתנה לנחלה לראובני ולגדי ולחצי שבט המנשה, ושמרתם את דברי הברית הזאת, ועשיתם אותם למען תשכילו את כל אשר תעשו.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata betocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Please rise.
Hamagvia ta'amod halakolelet.
V'zot Torah asher sham Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael
זאת התורה ששם משה לפני בני ישראל. על פי אדוני ביד משה, וזאת התורה ששם משה לפני בני ישראל. על פי אדוני ביד משה. La 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 la.
Please be seated. As we turn to page 1161, we're going to hear the entire Haftarah has been prepared by Deborah. It's kind of a jarring thought here from Isaiah in the 6th century before the Common Era. And when he says that there will be, what does he say here? Od Hamas be'artzech. Hamas will be in your land. 2,600 years ago. Hamas means violence in Hebrew. That's what today's Hamas is all about, as we know. It's kind of an interesting play on words. We hear this often, but really very profound here. And of course, the promise of Isaiah is that one day there will no longer be Hamas in the land. No longer will there be violence. How about that for a prophecy 2,600 years ago? Let's hope and pray. Page 1161. Deborah?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nim tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hane'emorim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai Habocher b'Torah uveMoshe avdo uveYisrael amo uvinviei ha'emet v'tzedek.
Amen.
Kumi ori kiva oreich ukvod Adonai alayich zarach ki hinei hachoshech yise'eretz Arafel le'umim ve'alayich yizrach Adonai ukvodo alayich Yira'el v'halechu goyim le'oreich umlachim le'noga zarcheich se'i saviv einayich ur'i Kulam nikbetzu va'ulach banaich merachok yavo'u uvnotaich outside te'amana. Az tiri v'nahart ufachad v'rachav levaveich ki yehafeich alayich Hamon yam chel goyim yavo'u lach shivat gemalim techaseich bichrei midyan ve'efa kulam mishava yavo'u sahavu vana yisa'u Utilot Adonai Yevaseru Kol Tzon Kader Yikavetzu Lach Ele Nevayot Yisharatu Nech Ya'alu Al Ratzon Mizbechi Uvei Tifarti Afaer Mi ela ka'av te'ufena v'chayonim el arubaitehem ki li iyim yakavu v'onio tarshish barishona
להביב ענייך מרחוק, כספם וזהבם איתם, לשם אדוני אלוהיך, ולקדוש ישראל כפארך. ובנו בני נכר חומותייך, ומלכיהם ושרתונך, כי בקצפי הכיתיך, וברצוני ריחמתיך. ופיתחו שערייך תמיד, יומם ולילה לא יסגרו, להביא אלייך חיל גויים, ומלכיהם נהוגים. כי הגוי והממלכה אשר לא יעבדוך יאבדו, והגויים חרוב יחרבו. כבוד הלבנון אלייך יבוא, בראש תדהר ותשור יחדיו, לפאר מקום מקדשי, ומקום רגלי אכבד. והלכו אלייך שכוח בני מענייך, והשתחוו על כפות רגלייך כל מנעצייך, וקראו לך עיר אדוני, ציון קדוש ישראל. תחת היותך עזובה ושנאה ואין עובר, ושמתיך לגאון עולם, משוש דור ודור. וינקת חלב גויים, ושוד מלכים תינקי, וידעת כי אני אדוני מושיעך, וגואלך אוויר יעקב. תחת הנחושת אבי זהב, ותחת הברזל אבי כסף, ותחת העצים נחושת, ותחת האבנים ברזל. ושמתי פקודתך שלום, ונוגסייך צדקה. לא יישמע עוד חמס בארצך, שוד ושבר בגבולייך, וקראת ישועה חומותייך, ושערייך תהילה. לא יהיה לך עוד השמש לאור יומם, ונוגה הירח לא יאיר לך, והיה לך אדוני לאור עולם, ואלוהיך לתפארתך. לא יבוא עוד שמשך, ויראך לא יאסף, כי אדוני יהיה לך לאור עולם, ושלמו ימי אבלך, ועמך כולם צדיקים לעולם ירשו הארץ. נצר מתי מעשה ידי להתפאר, הקטון יהיה לאל אלף, והצעיר לגוי עצום. אני אדוני, ואיתה אחישנה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העולמים, צדיק בכל הדברות, האל הנאמן, האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ונאמנים דבריך, ודבר אחד מדבריך אחור לא ישוב ריקם. כי אל מלך נאמן ורחמן אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך שמו,
האל הנאמן בכל דבריו.
אמן.
רחם על ציון כי היא בית חיינו, ולעלובת נפש תושיע במהרה בימינו. ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך שמו,
משמח ציון בבניך. שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו באליהו הנביא עבדך, ובמלכות בית דוד משיחך. במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו, על כיסאו לא ישב זר, ולא ינחלו עוד אחרים את כבודו, כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו, שלא יכבה נרו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן דוד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך. יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך שמו,
מקדש השבת.
Amen. You did it. Oh, please. Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, Nachamu, 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 Nachamu Ami, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami. Nachamu, 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 Ami. One more Shabbat of Nachamu. Thank you, Ken. Let's turn to page 177, please. We can remain seated. Let's read the prayer for our troubled country. Our God and God of our ancestors, with mercy accept our prayer on behalf of our country and its government. Pour out your blessing upon this land, upon its inhabitants, upon its leaders, its judges, officers, and officials, who faithfully devote themselves to the needs of the public. Help them understand the rules of justice you have decreed, so that peace and security, happiness and freedom will never depart from our land. And Tfilat Shalom Medinat Yisrael, our prayer always for the state of Israel as well. Together on page 178, the top, Avinu Shebashamayim, stronghold and redeemer of the people Israel. Bless the state of Israel, the beginning of our redemption. Shield us with your love, spread over it the shelter of your peace. Guide its leaders and advisors with your light and your truth. Help them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Deliver them, crown their efforts with triumph. Bless the land with peace, its inhabitants with lasting joy. And let us say,
Amen.
Amen. Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha. Page 181.
Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, Od Yehalelucha Selah.
Ashrei Ha'am
Kacha lo,
Shekach.
Ashrei Am Shadonai Elohav, Tila LeDavid. Aromi Macha Elohai HaMelech, Va'avarcha Shimcha Le'olam Va'ed.
B'chol yom
Avachecha, V'halala Shimcha Le'olam Va'ed. Gadol Adonai Umulal Meod, V'ligdolato Ein Cheker. Dor Ledor Yeshabach Masecha, Ugvoratecha Yagidu. Hadar Kavod Odecha, V'divrei Niflotecha Asicha. V'znoratecha Yomerug, Dulatecha Asaprena. Zecharav Tucha Yabil, V'tzidkatecha Yiranenu. Rachum Adonai, Erech Apayim Ugdal Chesed. Tov Adonai L'Kol, V'rachamav Al Kol Ma'asav.
Yoduch Adonai
Kol Ma'asecha V'chasidecha Yivarchucha. Kavod Malchutcha Yomeru, Gvuratecha Yedaberu. L'nei Adam Gvuratav, U'chod Adar Malchuto. Malchutecha, Malchut Kol Olamim, U'memshaltecha B'chol Dor V'ador.
Somech Adonai
L'chol Hanoflim, V'zokef L'chol Hakufim. Einecha Le'lecha Yasa Beru, V'yata Noten Lahem Erechlam Bito. Poteach et yadecha, u'masbia lecha charatzon. Tzadik Adonai b'chol derecha, v'chasid b'chol ma'asav. Karov Adonai l'chol korav, l'chol asher yigru v'emet. Ratzon Yereyav Yaseh, v'yet Shabbatam Yishma v'yoshiem.
Shomer
Adonai et kol ahava, v'yet kol Hashem yashmid. Tilat Adonai yedaber pi, v'varech kol basar Shem kodsho le'olam va'ed. Anachnu nevarech ya, et aviyad olam, hallelujah.
Please rise, nalakum.
Yahallelu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado. Odo al eretz v'shamayim, vayarem keren li'amo. Tehila lechol chasidav, libnei Yisrael, am karobo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Mizmor LeDavid, Avul Adonai B'Nelim, Avul Adonai, Kavod Va'ozai, Avul Adonai, Kavod Shemo Ishtach, Avul Adonai, Bahadrat Kodesh. Kol Adonai alamayim, el hakavod hirim. Adonai almayim rabim. Kol Adonai bakoach ay kol Adonai. Behadar kol Adonai shaver arazim, v'shaber Adonai et azei avanon, v'yarkidem kamo egel Lebanon, v'siryon kemo ben reimim ay. Kol Adonai chotzei blabotesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yachol elai alon, Vayechesov ye'arot uvehechalol. Kulo omer kavod ay Adonai la ma'abud yashava yeshev Adonai melech le'olam Adonai oz le'amo yiten Adonai yavarech et amo v'shalom Lai 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 La 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 Uvenocho Yomar Shuvan Arivot Alfei Yisrael Kuman Lunusacha Kohanecha Yilbeshut Tzedek V'chasidecha Yeranenu Babor David Avdecha Al Tashe Pnei Mashichecha Ki Lekach Tov Natati Lachem Torati Al Tazovu Eitz Chaim Hi Lama Chazikim Ba V'tomcheha me'ushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom hashivenu Adonai Elecha Benashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem
Asher Kohak, stand. Well done. Thank you, everybody. Give our blessings to your sister. Please be seated, everyone. Let me get my notes out here. So, I am going to High Holidays. First day, I'm going to talk about what's underneath the Ner Tamid. But for now, we're focusing on Ivdu Adonai B'Simcha. At the top here, serving God with joy. Happiness, how we define it. But I want to mention two parenthetical remarks before we begin. One has nothing to do with the Torah portion, the other does. The first is, I believe it's Sunday night, tomorrow night, there is going to be a 3-part documentary that is going to appear on PBS by Ken Burns on the Holocaust. Now, I haven't seen it. Nobody has, except for a few people able to preview it. But I have to tell you, I'm concerned. Because there appears to be, and again, I'll wait. I want to see the footage. I want to see everything. But there appears to be an agenda going on here with the Holocaust. And we just heard it this week that the people who, how do you feel about what happened with Martha's Vineyard? To compare that to the Holocaust? And Jews were put on trains to go to their deaths. It's an abomination. It's an absolute abomination. And I'm a Jewish historian, so I'm very sensitive about this. And we're going to be studying at length what led to the Shoah. I'm afraid that this documentary, and we'll have plenty to talk about. We have to see it first. But the idea is to blame the Shoah on the American government, which is a grotesque distortion of why Jews were murdered in Europe. There were contributing factors: Christianity, the Vatican, the silence of the Western governments. But to take the core of the Shoah and what it meant from within the bowels of Germany and then spreading throughout Europe is really an unseemly rereading of history. And I'm very concerned about it. But I'm going to keep an open mind. We're going to watch the documentary and see what happens with that. But when anybody, and it's from all political sides, when they use abortion's not a Holocaust, Sending plane loads of people to Martha's Vineyard is not a Holocaust, and I will scream to my last day to protect what is a unique historical experience that, God forbid, would ever happen to our people again or any people on earth. The Shoah is the Shoah. And when anybody uses that, it's a desecration of the deaths of our 6 million. A complete desecration. And I'm going to fight it tooth and nail as much as I can. So, anyway, I get emotional about this. And I wanted to share my thoughts with you. The second thing is which I actually had a sermon written, and I tore it up to talk about happiness. And that is a very interesting thing occurs here in the Torah portion. We have the people of Israel been in the Sinai desert for 40 years. They've been away from every building, every civilization. They didn't have to really manufacture make any food. Everything was given to them. They lived in the pristine wilderness of Sinai. And now they're asked to go into the land of Israel. And what is the first thing that Moses tells them to do? Make stone structures for you. Build an altar out of stone. In other words, as the rabbis understood that, get back into society. Don't find a shield of the wilderness forever. Now, the reason why this becomes important is because we're in a great transition now, in a figurative sense, from being away from civilization with COVID. We've been locked out of civilization. We've stayed away. We've masked ourselves. We've stayed away. And I hear a voice in the Torah that says, people, we cannot go on living like this forever and ever. And I'll obviously respect all those people who feel a great sensitivity and need to cover up and because everybody's got different medical conditions. But there's also a part of us that says that I believe Moses is trying to tell the people, you've got to get back into society. You've got to start building again. You can't live in a shielded existence forever. I don't know. I thought that was a very interesting command that Moses gave to the people, and I hope that more people, last year at Rosh Hashanah, we were still in a transition period, and I hope that more and more people will say, it's time, let's come back to shul and be together as we should. Enough said about that. So, the topic of the day is about simcha. As I mentioned, there is no word in the Hebrew for fun. Isn't that interesting? I go to a ball game, I say, that was a fun day. There's really no way of describing that in the Hebrew. We have certain words like Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, may you be Asher, is a kind of a joyous state of mind in your dwelling places. And of course we say Chag Sameach, we say have a joyous holiday. The rabbis refrain from calling simcha a fun, but a kind of happiness that comes through our being Jewish. There is no verb in the Hebrew as well, an active verb about being happy. I am happy. In the Hebrew, it's ani sameach, which is called in fancy grammatical terms a stative verb. It's not an active verb. It's a state of mind. It's not something, in a sense, the Hebrew rebels against the Declaration of Independence that says you should pursue happiness, because it's the rabbis, the Torah recognizes that happiness is something that happens, that accumulates over a whole bunch of things. It's a state of mind. It's not something that you can snap a finger. If you go to a bookstore, you see all these books about how to be happy, how to be happy, how to be happy. And in many ways, they're spinning their wheels. Spinning their wheels. Of course, I haven't read all of them. There's probably some very good books out there. But I want to share with you, I came up with, I believe, 10 or 11 things that I believe that our Jewish tradition says will bring us into this state of mind of simcha, being happy. And I want to share them with you. The first thing is from Pirkei Avot, which the rabbis asked the question, Mi Gibor, Who is a strong person? And then the answer is Koveshet Yitro, one who can conquer his inclination, his impulses. In other words, the person who is able to control bad habits, the Yetzer Hara, the inclinations that lead us to anger, that lead us to all the things that we try to get rid of. In other words, in a rabbinic context, happiness comes from a sense of self-discipline, when we're able to control those parts of us that we know are not good. It's what kashrut is all about. It's a discipline of being able to mark out. We can't have everything. We can't do everything. We can't insult everybody all the time. We can't be angry. We can't lose our tempers. We have to control those parts of us. We have to discipline ourselves. And when we can do that, whether it be of health or emotional or moral activity, then we get a sense of accomplishment of simcha. That's one. You might have your others, by the way. This is the great existential struggle. Now, then there is another expression in Pirkei Avot that says, Sameach bechelko, or chelka. You shall be happy or joyous with your portion, with what you have been given. Gratitude, rather than focusing on what we don't have, gratitude for what we do have, is considered to be by the rabbis an essential element that allows us to attain a state of joy. Not focusing on what we don't have, but what we do have. Another important part of that is, which I believe that our society has failed, we have provided since the 60s, I mentioned Shirley Chisholm and George Wallace were responsible for this together in the 1970s, where they initiated minimum wage and, of course, inaugurated a lot of the food stamp programs in our country. And we thought that that would satisfy millions of people. Well, it didn't bring a lot of simcha, because as Deuteronomy tells us, the greatest joy we get is when we are independent, when we're on our feet. The idea of the welfare, and I'm not saying we should cancel those things, but it's not a solvent for all of society. It does not bring dignity to people, because it's the rabbinic notion. You have to have something. Not want what everybody else has, but have something of your own that enables you to reach a state of simcha. And without that, being on the largesse of others will not bring simcha. As we can see, so many of our American cities are still bleeding because we haven't figured that out yet. Number 3, our tradition is very clear about making sure that we do not see ourselves as victims constantly. Woe is me. The world has cast a bad lot for me. People who see themselves as victims are seldom very happy. And we're living in a society in which a lot of segments of our population are saying, I need your attention. I've been a victim of whatever for all the centuries. And it doesn't make a very happy society, content society. Talk about racism and bad parents that we've had, or health problems. The Jews have had a lot to point to the world about, telling the world that we've been probably the ultimate victims of all in history. My grandparents never used the state of what they ran away from in Europe as a way of using as a sledgehammer against the rest of society. They had dignity. They never saw themselves as victims. They went in the synagogue no matter how difficult their lives were, and they knew that they were individuals created in the image of God. And we're living in a society in which everybody's screaming, I'm the privileged one, I've been victimized. Well, that will not make for a happy society, I can guarantee you. Number 4, people who rarely complain are the happiest people of all, in my view. We've seen that in the Torah with our people complain in the desert in the wilderness of Sinai as soon as they left Egypt. And Moses could not believe how they lost all perspective of that. People who complain all the time are signs of people who are not very content, in my view. The more we complain, the more unhappy we become. Test it out. And believe me, as a rabbi, we hear all kinds of things from members of the congregation. It's sure nice when we get a note, thank you very much, the office, the rabbi, for doing all the nice things, rather than hearing, Rabbi, it's too cold, it's too hot in there, we can't hear, constant complaints. There's nothing wrong with voicing objections, but as long as we keep those objections in perspective, not to be a complaining person all the time. It's all about simcha. Number 5, I mentioned here, the people who have close friends are the happiest people of all. I really believe that. There's nothing better than having close friends. That's why we enjoy being together here. It's a great sense of simcha when we're together, when I see your smiles and hugs, and we connect with each other. I believe that having close friends prolongs life, gives us the greatest sense of joy. The greatest sense of joy. Then number 6, which is very interesting, it's only Jewish tradition that I know that commands us to be happy. That's Sukkot. Ach sameach b'chagecha. You must be happy. You might be in mourning, but you're commanded to be happy at Sukkot. And of course, I would say it's for the rest of the year as well. How can God command us to be happy? It's a very interesting question. I would say is that it compels us being around other people. There's sometimes, by the way, I share with you, we all have things in our lives that are stressful, but I really do. I hope you know that when I come here, I will always have a smile. There'll be times, of course, of grief and mourning. I went through that. But even that does not dispel the need to be happy around other people. Because when you're happy around other people, it's contagious. Everybody else wants to be content. And it's a very powerful commandment in our Torah. The commandment to be happy. It doesn't say to have fun. It commands us to have this state of mind. And that we know that in Judaism, the deed shapes the faith, the reality, not the faith shaping the deed. That's a Christian and Islamic notion, but not a Jewish notion. Taking a leap of action. And so the way that we act shapes our world. Be happy. What was that song? Be happy. Remember that song? Be happy. Act happy, and you will feel happier. It's a good adage. Of course, having love in our lives, having a good marriage and family, a partner who brings us cheer, respects us, is a huge source of happiness. Number 8, 10th commandment, do not, al tachmod, do not be envious of other people. Envy and jealousy destroys happiness. They have, I do not have. It's killing our society today. Absolutely devouring millions of people. We're living in miserable times. And that spreads the unhappiness to others. And a good adage that comes from the lore of Joseph Telushkin, who I mentioned last night. We think that people who have are the happiest people on earth. And he talked about his mother. He said, he wrote, the only happy people I know are people I do not know well. Which means, we all have our own issues, but don't be envious of others. You'll be a lot happier. And then there's the issue in number 9, I mentioned self-esteem, which is a very interesting thing here. Self-esteem comes from being productive, from helping others, from being Jewish, from being involved in our community. And the old Hasidic adage that we're supposed to have 2 pieces of paper in our pockets, one that says we're the most lowly creatures on earth, and the other pocket says that we are people made in the image of God. Finding this balance between humility and self-respect is really a fine challenge in life to find the two. People who are constantly feeling low about themselves at one end, or people who are feeling too great about themselves, cannot possibly be happy. Can we find that combination that allows us to feel good about ourselves with all our flaws? We're all going to do that. We all have flaws. But at the same time, in recognizing while we are come short of the goal, that we also are good. We've done a lot of good during the past year and beyond as well. And the last thing I mentioned, the people who have few expectations. Don't have expectations. You'll live a lot happier as a result of being very comfortable with where you're at and what you are doing today. And of course, it all comes down to gratitude as well. A lot of our prayers are all about giving thanks because it allows us perspective in cherishing where we're at, what we have today, and not worrying all the time about what could be or tomorrow. So I put that little hodgepodge of happiness things, and you can see here and you might have your own, but if we put them together, I think we can begin to take seriously what we're commanded in the Psalms to serve the Lord our God b'simcha, with happiness. And that's part of the goal, is to nurture all these different things when we are together. And that's why we say Shana Tova. We don't say have a happy new year, because it has a connotation of we're going to go to the fireworks. We're not going to be showing fireworks on next Sunday evening. We're going to be here in synagogue. We're going to deal with some important issues, because what we want is a Shana, a good year. A good year means a year of productivity, a year in which we can find our blessings, and by doing good, we can achieve that state of simcha and of blessing. So I wanted to share that with you. I wish all of you a Shabbat Shalom in this pursuit of where we should be in the coming weeks to come. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Please rise. Thank you for that journey. And now we are ready for the Musaf service. Please rise. Page 184, the Chatzi Kaddish, followed by the Amidah that will begin together through the Kedusha on page 187, and then silently through page 192. Stand.
Yitkara v'yitkara shemei rabba.
Amen.
B'yom hadirak yirteh v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayedecho beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala, u'v'zman kariv v'yimaru. Amen. Yesh mei rabba mavorach v'olam v'le'omaya.
Yitbarach,
Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitbar, v'yitramam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yitalev, v'yithalal, shmei dekudesha b'richu. Leila min kol verchata v'shirata, tushvechata v'nechemata, damiran b'yoma, v'yimaru. Amen. Yala la 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 Adonai, yala la 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 Sfatai Tiftach, yala la 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 Ufi Yagid, Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha, yala la 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 Adonai, yala la 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 Sfatai Tiftach, yala la 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 Ufi Yagid, Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei HaKol V'zocher chasdei avot v'imahot ומביא גואל לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ופוקד ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה מתים אתה רב להושיע. מוריד אתה, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדם מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, באמנתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך שמו
בחיי המתים.
אמן. אריצה ונקדישך כסוסיה שרפי קודש, מקדישים שמך בקודש, ככתוב יבניך וברזל זה ויאמר.
נריצך ונקדישך כסוד שיח שרפי קודש, המקדישים שמך בקודש, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וכרז אל זה ויאמר. קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך הארץ כבודו.
כבודו מלא עולם משותף שולים זה לזה, היה מקום כבודו לא מתמרוק ימירו.
כבודו מלא עולם משרתיו שואלים זה לזה, היה מקום כבודו. לעומתם ברוך ימירו. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו.
ממקומו יפן ברחמים. ערב ובוקר בכל יום תמיד פעמיים בימה שמה
ממקומו יפן ברחמים, ויחונם המייחד עם שמו. ערב הבוקר בכל יום תמיד, פעמיים באהבה שמע אומרים. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. הוא אלוהינו אבינו מלכנו הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו שני לעיני כל חי לעיני כל חי. להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם. ובדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גדלך לנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לימוש לעולם ועד. כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
יהי רצון לפניך ולבתינו ובנותינו משיב בנים לגבולם משתדל בשמחה לארצנו ותיתנו בגבולנו ששמה ולבתינו. את קורבנותיהם תמיד וזרעיהם לחנכתם מוסף יום השבת. הידי ודגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדגדgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgdgd תמיד ונזכר, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי שבת וקודש. חמדת ימין ותוקרת, זכר למעשה בראשית, ולבתינו נתנו, ותהה ליבנו עבדך באמת, מקדש השבת. ברוך אתה לנו כזה שנתן לציין מודים אנחנו. הטוב כי לא חלום רב, אנחנו נכין פלוטים לקצמי ולאפי עוקלם. ברוך אתה אדוני תפשיר רגל, שים שלום ברוך אתה אדוני Yeah, or you want to do all session? Let's just wait just a minute. Still have. Kaddish Shalem, page 203.
יתקרא ויתקרא שמי רבה.
אמן.
יעמד דרך ירתה וימלך מלכותי בחייכון וימיכון. בחייך בית ישראל, בעגלה וזמן קריב יאמרו.
אמן.
יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעולמיה. יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרום ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשו. לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תשבתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ויאמרו. תקבל צלתן ובותן לכל ישראל קדם עבודה וישמעיה ויאמרו. יהי שלום רבה מן שמעיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו.
Amen. En Keloheinu, page 204.
En Keloheinu, en Kadonenu, en Kemalkeinu, en Kemoshienu, mi Keloheinu, mi Kadonenu, mi Kemalkeinu, mi Kemoshienu. No dele Eloheinu, no dele Adonai, no dele Malkeinu, no dele Moshienu. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adoneinu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adoneinu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shetiru, Avoteinu Lefanecha, Et Ketoret Asamim, En Keloheinu, En Kadonenu, En Kemalkeinu, En Kemoshienu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu ka'em, v'gor aleinu kechol amonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umotim, livnei melech malchei amlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגבי מרמים הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו אפס עולתו ככתוב בתורתו וידעת היום והשבתה אל לבביך כי אדוני הוא אלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד על כן נקבל אחד אוויר גנולים תקנו מצלך בנפשים להפנות אליך כל אשר יכיר לך כל ששפטו כהלכת הכרח תלפר תשבל שון לפניך ויקבלו כולם את המלכותך ותמלוך להם מהר לעולם ועד כי המלכות שלך היא ולעולם ועד תמלוך בכבוד ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ושמו echad.
I like hearing you harmonize. Please be seated, everyone. We remember the yahrzeits observed this week of Samuel Ansel, Etta Bieberman, Boris Katz, Erwin Elkes, Sally Kate, Pauline Signer, Howard Lawrence Gluck, Faye Goldklang, Sarah Gendler, Goldie Srog, George Levinson, Maurice A. Mitchell, Martin Ira Moss, Leah Greenberg-Narens, David Hyman, Earl Prohovsky, Fira Prokopets, Rosalind Rich Manson, Reva Golden, Louis Sadaka, Jerome Wolicki, Benny Fisher, Yoon Bermeo, Max Weber Wertheim, Mildred Wazell, all of blessed memory. So those remembering yahrzeits, those still in mourning, will join together at the Kaddish here and at home on page 207. In love, we remember. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbav, v'yalmad yivarach yirutei v'yamich malchutei, v'chayechol v'yamechol, v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agalal v'zman kariv, v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach le'elam v'lamei almaya, yiparach v'yishtabach, v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnasei, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shmei kudusha, brichu, Leila min kol bechata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, tamiram bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, v'yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Please be seated, everyone. Our announcements from Sheldon Goldklang. The yahrzeit today, too. Your mother's yahrzeit this week.
Shabbat Sholom. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Sheldon.
Is this on now? Okay. Before I start, I just wanted to make a personal comment. I was not supposed to have Bima duty today. It was our wild board trading of people who are not back yet. So we were just switching and flipping, and I wound up with last week and this week. And Today is special to me because obviously it's the yahrzeit of my mother, who died in 1982.
82, wow.
And the reason I'm mentioning this is because the very next year, her first yahrzeit was on my birthday. And that at first upset me until I was able to reconcile it and realize that maybe that was God's way of sending her back to me so that we could share something the very next year.
Your present.
Unknown to me at the time, my sister is on the Mishaberic list, and you won't know that because her name is Goldsmith. She traded that from Goldklang to Goldsmith. And she underwent surgery yesterday. Yesterday was the actual death of my mother, the 16th. And when she told me about it, when the surgery was scheduled, she was very upset. And I just related back, and she remembered the first yahrzeit on my birthday. And I said, this is Mom's way of being with you, and she'll take care of you. So the
Well
surgery was
said.
successful yesterday, and thank you for your calls and your kind wishes, Rabbi.
My love.
Okay, without any
Steve.
particular segue, which I've said before, the Bima baskets today are sponsored by Sue Prohofsky in memory of her mother, Helen Shapiro, and her husband, Earl. The morning minion, I have a conflict here. I'm not sure if it's going to be live on Thursday. It says no. It will be. Okay.
Live,
So it'll be
yes.
live and streaming. It'll be streaming all week and live on Thursday. The programming for this week, we have tomorrow at 10 a.m., we have the usher and greeter training in the social hall. And then there's a youth Rosh Hashanah project in the social hall at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I believe Joel is running the meeting tomorrow.
Yes.
And it's important as many of you as possible who will volunteer to be ushers and greeters during the high holidays. We'd welcome you to please attend. I want to thank the people who participated in the services today. Our readers, Joan Brody, Stan Mitchell, Susan, Cantor Neil Newman, and Deborah Bortnick with the Haftorah. And I'd also like to point out to the rabbi that your reading of the two sections reminds me that you probably would have aced my speed reading class in college. Couldn't even come close, and I was trying to follow, but we were taught to kind of scan 3 lines at a time. So
I have to read that fast. I'm allowed to
you read
do
that fast, and it was terrific. Thank you.
Thanks, Shel.
There's a note on here about the speaker we had this past week, and maybe it was just a note to let us know, it's a reminder to me. I got a call on Thursday night after the program from a congregant who said, I missed it, and I was so upset. Can you tell me what happened? And I kind of fumbled through it a little bit because my brain was already watching the New York Mets game on TV. And I kind of gave them an overview of what I remembered, the conflict of Judaism today and where we're going for the future. But then yesterday, I was able to read the rabbi's message, and I don't know how many of you have had an opportunity to read it yet. But he gives a wonderful synopsis of the program and the points made by the professor. But of more interest was the second half of his message, where he gave quotes that were kind of came through the centuries, actually centuries, from Sir Isaac Newton, from Leon Tolstoy, Mark Twain, and I don't remember the other
There was
two.
a Russian philosopher.
And
John Adams, President Adams.
Oh, of course, President John. Well, I wasn't going to say that because I didn't remember if it was John or Samuel.
John, it was the
it was
president.
John.
He was a big
But
Jewophile.
it just reminds me of the program that was given and that there was so much more to discuss. And then, of course, I saw the ad last night for Ken Burns' documentary on the Holocaust. So it's apropos. The discussion has to continue.
Yes, it is.
It was a
Should have
Zoom
been.
lecture, and I don't know, and I haven't seen Joel yet, so I will mention it to him. Elliot, was it recorded? Thank you.
Was not recorded? Oh. Oh, that was a mistake.
Okay.
Really? A mess?
We had some problems with the Wi-Fi
That's
for
for
the streaming,
sure, yeah.
for the Zoom. All right, I
Wi-Fi
just
was
want
very
to
annoying.
have two more notes. Break the fast following the Yom Kippur will be at 7:50 p.m. and the deadline to sign up is September 28th, so there's still room and still time. And for those of you who will not be staying for the break fast, the prosts will graciously be giving us goodies to go. Will be there. And lastly, I want to mention that our cantor Matt Osterklein, will be here next Shabbat, starting Friday night, and will be here through the entire high holidays. So we are all, as a member of the board and the congregation, looking forward to his appearance. And Shabbat Shalom.
Thanks, Sheldon. Thanks always for your kindness, my friend. Well said, your sister. That was good. Okay, we are ready to conclude and schmooze. So we're going to finish with Adon Olam on page 211, followed by the Kiddush.
Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa V'chefzo Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'yacharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch norah v'hu haya v'hu hoveh v'hu yiyeh b'tifara v'hu echad v'yein sheni lahamshir lo lehachbira b'li reshit b'li tachlit V'lo ha'oz v'ha'misra V'hu eli v'chai go'ali V'tzor chevli b'yetzara V'hu nisi umanosli Menat kosi b'yomekra B'yado avkid ruchi B'yet ishan v'ya'irab V'im ruchi gaviyati Adonai li v'lo irab Adon olam asher malach B'terem kol yitzir nivra Li'et nasa v'chefzo kol Azai melech shemo nikra.
Please rise. I just want to make one other announcement. Tonight begins the season. Slichot, tonight, 8 o'clock for some refreshments and discussion. And our Slichot service will be at 9 o'clock. We'll be also changing the covers to our Torah scrolls, so we always will have a nice way of introducing the theme and the solemnity of this time of the year. So please try to come. 8 o'clock, Cantor Murray Simon, accompanied by his wife Toby, will be here as well. So it's always a beautiful, beautiful service. Thank you. Let me pour here. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et Shabbat l'dorotam barit olam. La'asot et Shabbat l'dorotam barit olam beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti li'olam ki shishim imas Adonai et hashemayim v'da'aretz v'yom hashvi Shabbat v'yi nafash al kein berachtanai yom hashvat v'kadshehu savri baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen.
Amen.
I share. Chaim. I forgot to take these out. Birshutchem baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you from every harm.
Yair Adonai panav elecha
May
v'chuneka.
God's light and love and kindness be with you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
God lift us all with courage and faith and lots of Torah. May we be blessed with shalom, with peace. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Luis Francisco Rebello. There were a few thousand, a minority group. I'll leave this, y'all.